Am I the a-hole for removing my baby's earrings immediately after my wife pierced them? My wife and I have a 2-month-old daughter, Alicia. We've been having the piercing debate since before she was born. She comes from a culture where it's the normal thing, but I'm just not comfortable with a painful process like that and would prefer to wait until she's older so she can choose whether to go through that for herself. While we still hadn't made a decision, my wife went for a day with her family with the baby while I had a few things I needed to sort out. When I got home, the first thing I noticed was that Alicia had a pair of gold studs. I demanded to know what had happened, and she said they decided to make a day of it and just get them done. I felt pure rage and immediately removed the earrings and threw them away. This enraged my wife, and she said removing them was totally disrespectful. She slept in the spare room last night and isn't speaking to me at all. As far as I'm concerned, I did the right thing. She got them pierced without asking me, or more importantly, asking Alicia. So I took them out because our baby doesn't need bits of metal sticking out of her ears. Am I the a-hole? Now the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm of the opinion that a cultural norm that impedes another person's bodily autonomy is not a cultural norm worth following, especially ones that can cause long-term damage. My ears were pierced as a baby, and I really wish they hadn't been. The holes are uneven because my ears grew over time, and one hole is constantly painful and agitated and never heals over, likely damage from the abomination that is a piercing gun. It would have been nice to make the choice myself and be able to go to a proper piercing shop to do so. Instead, I have constant problems from having a piercing gun used on me when I could not consent. Your wife knew your feelings on this and did it behind your back as a better to ask forgiveness than permission move. She can cry about disrespect all she wants, but it was disrespectful to you, the child's other parent, to do this behind your back, especially for something entirely aesthetic with multiple potential downsides if done incorrectly. Your daughter's well-being is more important than her having a shiny rock in her ears. I'm also questioning what the hell kind of place they got her pierced at. 2 months? Is incredibly young to get piercings done, and chances are good it was done with a piercing gun, which can cause horrible damage to the ears. I know this firsthand, unfortunately. Piercing guns also can't be properly cleaned. They aren't a safe option, period. Your wife needs to put aside her own wants in favor of your child's safety and well-being. You've summed this up perfectly. I'm so sorry you've had all these problems with your own piercings. I'm really astounded at all the "you're the a-holes." There are so many problems that almost always arise from babies having piercings similar to the ones that you have mentioned. I worked in a doctor's reception for a few years, and you saw all sorts from wonky piercings to kids who needed actual surgery to need them removed. In my opinion, OP is not the a-hole. Also, I'm no expert, but won't the piercings just heal now if properly looked after? Without the earrings, they'll close up and she can just get them re-pierced later on. They probably won't even leave a visible scar based on how quickly he removed them. In the case of OP's daughter, it'll probably heal a bit slower than normal because piercing guns cause some tissue damage from the force, but it will heal. However, I'd be more concerned with infection because piercing guns are pretty much impossible to sterilize, and taking the earrings out leaves her with an open wound in both ears. Best to go check with a doctor on what to keep an eye out for and how to take care of this. Not the a-hole. Whether or not anyone here agrees or disagrees with the morality of getting a baby's ears pierced, the problem is that the mom went behind dad's back about something they couldn't agree on. It was a big deal to the dad. This kind of thing needs 2 yeses to go through. Mom blatantly disregarded dad. That's not a respectful marriage. Next story. Am I the a-hole for poisoning my nephew? My sister and nephew stopped by as they were running errands and asked to borrow my husband's leaf blower. I was looking for it in the basement, and my sister went to the bathroom, leaving my 7-year-old nephew in the living room. He went to my bedroom and opened up my nightstand and ate some of my iron gummies. My sister found him out and rushed him into the ER since we weren't sure how many he ate. He stayed for 3 days in the children's hospital for monitoring and was given a drug to make him not absorb the iron. Luckily, he's okay now and is totally recovered. My sister is pissed at me for not telling her there were iron gummies in my house. I feel terrible about it, but it's not like I remember to tell every visitor I have iron gummies in my bedroom. Like, she should have been watching my nephew. She and I haven't spoken much since the accident. Now the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your nephew poisoned himself. 7 years old is more than old enough to understand don't put shoot you find in your mouth. 7 is also old enough to know not to go into someone's private bedroom and rifle through their things. Not the a-hole. Right? What the F has mom been teaching him? I absolutely remember knowing to not eat random stuff at that age. Not the a-hole. I am having difficulty understanding your sister though. At age 7, your nephew should certainly know better than going into someone's private area, opening up even more private areas, and randomly eating gummies. Even if this was a toddler, this would be on your sister for not watching him. There should be zero expectation that any house other than your own is childproof. But again, at 7, this kid should have known better. Not the a-hole. Number 1, she should have been watching her kid. Number 2, 7 years old is old enough to know not to go snooping through people's things. Number 3, he poisoned himself. Lucky it was iron gummies and not something worse. She's mad at you for having iron gummies in your nightstand, in your room, in your house? Absolutely not the a-hole. The circumstances were bad, and if she is worried about him getting into things he's not supposed to, then it is her responsibility as the parent to monitor them at all costs. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not paying the vet bills for someone's dog I injured and probably can afford to pay? I know the title sounds bad, but please read the post. I, 17, female, was out this afternoon playing soccer with some of my friends. It's at a park and there's usually other people there, but today it was just us. About 20 minutes in, a lady comes in and she has an old-looking dog. Gray face, walked like an old dog. My friends and I ignored them. At some point, they were maybe 10 feet from the edge of the soccer field, and I was passing to a friend, but significantly overshot it. Left foot, and it ended up hitting the dog. Neither the owner nor the dog was paying attention, and it hit the dog's back legs and swept them out from under her, and it appeared that she had some injury to her hip or hind leg. I immediately apologized and asked if she wanted help getting the dog into her car or if she wanted me to call an emergency vet so they would know she was coming. She said no, but asked for my phone number so she could contact me about vet bills. I was a little taken aback and surprised, and she said I should pay them because I kicked the ball. I refused because I'm not giving my number to a stranger, and she shouldn't bring an old dog so close to a field where things are being kicked around. She got upset and huffed off, and later my friend texted me, "You probably should have given her your number. It was your fault." I probably can afford to pay them, but I'm a senior in high school and have a part-time minimum wage job and am saving. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay the bills? Now the top comments. Not the a-hole. As a dog owner who walks their dog on a multi-use track and football field, this is how I see it. Number 1, you didn't intentionally cause injury. Number 2, you didn't try and skirt any responsibility and tried to give them the help you could immediately. Number 3, the dog owner has to have a certain amount of responsibility and liability. If I took my dog to a soccer field and it got hit, I would personally feel responsible having known and seen there were people, objects flying around, etc. Common sense. Number 4, I would have a hard time personally as an adult who has taken on the responsibility of a pet, food, vet, time, etc., thinking that a child, no offense, but to an old woman this is how you'd be seen, could or should be taking on any of my own personal responsibilities. If I parked my car close to a soccer field and a windshield got knocked out and I retold the story to anyone, they would first ask me why I parked my car so close to a soccer field, and a dog is so much more valuable. It's a living thing. I agree with this. I really don't understand all the "you're the a-hole" votes. If you walk your small elderly dog next to a soccer field, you are taking chances. Edit, not the a-hole. I'm kinda half and half on this. Like, yes, she was walking her dog in a public area, and of course you didn't mean to hurt the dog, but the crucial part here is that you did. You're not a bad person, but if you injure someone or break something, you should apologize and make right. even if it wasn't intentional. Me too, I really can't decide. If OP broke a window or dented a car or something, I'd be responsible, so part of me feels like they should be responsible for the vet bills. But on the other hand, it sounds like the owner walked too close to the soccer field with the dog and should have been paying attention. I hope the dog is okay. Editing, because people can't see past the "it's just a dog." We are responsible for damage we cause, even if it is unintentional. The dog and owner were not inside the designated play area. They had as much right to be there as anyone else. So that we're all on the same page, the soccer field is inside the public park. The moment that ball left the soccer field, it was in a public place. When it struck anyone, dog, human, car window, any resulting damage becomes the responsibility of the person that set that ball in motion. Read my response to another post below, putting it in context of homes built fronting golf courses. The owner doesn't pay for windows broken by people that swing and miss. The golfer does. OP, you're the a-hole. Finally, this is a sub for moral judgments, not legal ones, and if you're unlicensed to practice, this is especially ill-advised. Consider the legal experts on minors that are repeating nonsense. This isn't a contractual agreement, but negligent property damage. Alas, what the United States considers live beings like dogs, which means that either the OP, their parents, or the insurance company can be liable. If a minor with a license hits your car, you think they're off the hook? No. Parents' insurer pays. If they're uninsured, the parents do. What makes you think a different standard applies? You're the a-hole if the park is open to dog walkers too. Not the a-hole if dogs aren't supposed to be walked there. I say you're the a-hole based on you acting like it's their fault for not paying attention to you. Why weren't you paying attention to them? See how easily that flips? She wasn't on the field, so she wasn't expecting a ball to be launched at her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted when my mother-in-law excluded me and my husband from the family photo album? My husband's, Justin, 34, family is big. His brothers and sisters have kids, and they're all sweet and vibrant. My favorite part when I visit my in-laws is playing with the kids. I'm 32, by the way, might be a bit embarrassing, but I have a kid at heart. And spending time with them. Justin and I can't have kids due to infertility on my part, which is very devastating for us, but we're blessed to have kids in the family to love on and spend time with. Now, generally, I'm on good terms with my mother-in-law, but she always brings up my inability to have kids, and so far, she's excluded me and Justin from kid-based events. Recently, she was gathering pics from her children and grandchildren to make a big family photo album. Thing is, she didn't ask me nor Justin for any photo, and I offered her our photos once, and she said something like, "Maybe later, I'll let you know before I get done." But she never let me know. In fact, this week she surprised us by announcing that her family photo album was complete. She had a page with pictures for each of her children and their families. Everyone took turns to look at the album. But once my brother-in-law handed it to Justin, Justin looked through it quickly, then closed it and gave it back to mother-in-law. I was confused, and Justin just got upset, but quiet. I asked mother-in-law to give me the album so I could look at mine and Justin's pictures, but she said, "Sorry, there aren't any photos of you two in there." I was dumbfounded. I asked why, and she said since we don't have kids or haven't started a family yet, then we didn't qualify to be in the family photo album. I told her, just because we don't have kids doesn't mean we weren't family to her, and that before she considers non-existent grandkids family, she should first consider me and Justin family. She just shrugged, saying, "No grandchildren, no part in photo album." No need to argue since no one can force her to do it. I got real mad and called her cruel for excluding us. Justin told me to take it easy, but I had an argument with her and walked out after she told me she doesn't owe me her time and effort to include me in the album. We went home feeling awful. Justin said I shouldn't have called his mom cruel, nor should I demand anything from her. I asked if he was fine with what she did. He said no, but it didn't make the situation any better, but insulted his mom in her home and acted entitled. Did I overreact? Now the top comments. Now, generally, I'm on good terms with my mother-in-law, but she always brings up my inability to have kids, and so far she's excluded me and Justin from kid-based events. I hate to break it to you, but you are not on good terms with your mother-in-law if she thinks reminding you of your infertility and excluding you from events because of it is appropriate behavior. You are not the a-hole, but the same can't be said about her. For real. What does OP consider bad terms? Jesus. Mother-in-law just sounds cruel and grandchild obsessed. Bet 12 out of 10 if they adopt in the future, they still won't be included because they're not real grandchildren. Not the a-hole. Since mother-in-law doesn't consider you or son family, stop going to her house. This right here. If you're not her family, then you and Justin have no reason to go see her. Not the a-hole. Your fertility business is no one's business but yours and your husband's. But in your shoes, the no grandkids, no photo album inclusion would have made me lose my shoot and say something along the lines of, I can't have kids, so thanks for making me feel like we're not worthy of being in this family album because I'm in the percentage of women who can't conceive. My reply would have been, I'm glad I don't have to serve as a broodmare to your family if that's the case. I think it's a damn shame you can't see a woman beyond them getting married and having babies, mother-in-law. But I guess everyone wants to feel justified in their own life choices. And when someone goes against them, though not willingly, you punish and reject them for it. You really have to be a sad and spiteful woman if you think that's okay, especially since it's out of their control.